Hey guys, Martin here bringing a Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so I was waiting for JIREN and GOTENKS to come out on Global and get a bit of a chance to play with them a little bit before making the next LR tier list. Obviously we did have the EZA for the physical Angel Vegeta come out as well, and despite the fact that I do think he is quite good, like he's definitely a good EZA, but I don't think he's good enough to make it into the top 10. So, spoilers, of course, but yeah, he won't be on the list here. Now, this top 10 I found honestly really difficult to make, and it's interesting to think about tier lists and top 10s in general. I'm not going to waste too much time at the beginning here. Because I know, and we talk about this in every video, so many people just skip to the end to see the list and they don't listen to any of the explanation or anything like that. But like this top 10 is really difficult to make, and while I was putting the moving the pieces around multiple times, it got me thinking about like how I value units and how I rank them in certain places compared to other people. And it is just one of those things that everybody has a different personal preference on how you play the game, what you value from units when it comes to their performance or how they fit into teams and all this other kind of stuff, right? Because some of these units in the top 10 are just doing very different things. And I think this is one of the closest lists that we've had in a long time where you could mix around the order quite significantly and it probably still wouldn't be, like, I don't want to say wrong, because when it comes to this sort of tier list thing, it is just someone's opinion. There isn't really no right or wrong. Like, I could see arguments for characters even that I have as low as like 7 actually being in the top 3, like depending on a specific event or like a specific team build. And that's something that I've mentioned before that always comes into play with these top 10 lists. A unit might be much better in one event than another unit, and if that's the event that you care about, or that's an event that they're going to bring out missions for, like, you know, continually, then maybe a unit being important in that event is better. Whereas maybe like a unit being good in, like, say, the Bulma event, which I know a lot of people don't like, does that matter if they're good in that event, right? So this one is really close. I know there's some placements that are really going to irritate people, but I obviously will do my best to explain my thought process. So do give it a listen before you comment asking why this character is above this character and so on and so forth. Obviously, more than happy to reply in the comments and have discussions with people. You know, just make it constructive. Let me know what you guys think, why you disagree, all of that stuff. And we're just going to go ahead and jump straight in. So at number 10, we have the Int Blue Evolution Vegeta. And I mean, even starting off with this guy, just because he's at number 10, like obviously he's still really good. It just is a marker of how good the top 10 units are, I think, with the fact that this guy is still incredibly good. But yeah, he's at number 10. He's a little bit worse than Goku just for the fact that Goku gets the guaranteed dodge on turn 1. I mean, we might as well just go ahead and talk about the fact that Goku is number 9. I mean, these two are very close together. Like, they have very similar passives, but Goku just has a few extra advantages. Like, Vegeta gets guard on turn 1, which is nice, but Goku gets the ability to take 0 damage on turn 1, regardless of, like, the enemy typing or anything, right? Unless the event disables dodge, which there's not many of those going around now, especially, like, on turn 1. They both can hit really hard. Vegeta, in certain situations, does have the easier event, revive, because he just has to take some hits, which he is a defensive unit. You want him to take hits anyway. But obviously now that we've got the Goku and Frieza event on Global and have actually been able to play that a bunch, obviously it is very common that locking can cause you to not get as many hits as you want on Vegeta, and then also locking can cause you to take some extra damage, obviously not being able to dodge in the Frieza and 17 phase, which can then put you to that lower health that triggers UI Goku's active to be revived to be active a little bit more often. But both of these guys are really good. I don't think many people would put Vegeta over UI, but they are quite close, so I mean, I probably wouldn't argue too much. But these guys are at the bottom of the list at 9 and 10. Then we have number 8, which is the physical Super Saiyan Trio. This is the biggest drop of any unit on any list that I've done in a while. I think the last list that I made, I had these guys as high as like 3 or 4. But now that we've got the Goku and Frieza event, and I've been doing different team builds, trying out other units more, and obviously again, like, these tier lists are always down to my own personal preference, so some personal experience. So some of the results are based around the fact that I have some of these units like these guys at 55%. Obviously, if I run them as a leader, I run a rainbow friend, so I am aware of like their rainbow performance. But these guys have been selling a little bit more recently, especially if you're having to use them as a slot 1 unit. The thing that's interesting is obviously you want to have the movie heroes or all-out struggle category ally in the same turn. For them to get the extra damage reduction and give the allies all the defense, which is one of the main things they're used for. Now, that isn't super difficult when you consider their best team builds, but it does also mean, and I mean, I have done it myself before in the past, even in videos by accident, where you like throw them into a team that they're on because of their categories, but then you don't end up having movie heroes or all-out struggle character on rotation with them. Not necessarily all the time, but it'll end up being the one turn where it really matters. And then they'll end up taking a load of damage. They're not giving the defensive support, which is one of their main utility roles. But like I say, these ones I struggled. I struggled not to put them much higher because when I thought about all the units that are above them, I thought about runs and stuff that I've had recently, especially with Goku and Frieza now being in the mix for Global, where those other units have just done better than these guys. But, I mean, these guys definitely could be higher. The Goku standby, obviously, as long as you get the right orbs, can be basically invincible. I have noticed, though, like, depending on the build-up, he only gets well, technically two turns to build up. He's one of those standbys where you have to use it straight away the next time once you've activated it. And so because of that, unless you get really lucky with picking up lots and lots of orbs, the damage can sometimes be a little bit disappointing. I don't think he doesn't get guaranteed crit, does he, on the active? So that can always be disappointing if it doesn't crit as well. But I mean, these guys are still a very good unit. This is one of the things I want to highlight. Even I mentioned it when we talked about Vegeta at 10. Just because these guys are at number 7 doesn't in any way, shape or form, or sorry, number 8, in any way, shape or form mean I think they're not good. You know, they're still probably still one of the best units in the game, even at number 8. But yeah, these guys have dropped down the list just based on how much more I've been enjoying the units above them. So let me know what you think. But yeah, this is my lowest placement for them since their release. What do you guys think of them? Let me know. Because at number 7, we have Int Broly, who originally I did have them obviously above him because I had them way near the top of the list. But Int Broly is a unit that's gotten a lot of buffs recently. His team absolutely is insane. Again, now with Goku and Frieza being the new big bad event on Global finally, and Global players getting a chance to actually try it out and test out a bunch of units and teams, this team just absolutely destroys that event. Like, it doesn't even necessarily need to be events that are short, because if you're running double Int Broly, then obviously you can use the first one's domain straight away, and then use the other one's domain afterwards. And obviously with the domain up, this guy is even better overall, like defensively, boosting all the rest of the team. His team features some units that can just go absolutely crazy and do tons of damage. In certain situations with the domain up, it's really difficult for this guy to die, and then even if he does die, he has the revival as well. So this guy's incredible. I saw someone say I think it was one of the comments of one of the videos that we did, where like the physical trio are almost seemingly as good as they are like the worst aging of the four worldwide celebration characters. And I feel like I'm kind of coming around to agreeing with that statement, because obviously they're the lowest one placed on this list so far. So yeah, Int Broly is still very, very good. I could even see arguments for him being even higher. But again, like some of these units nearer the bottom, they only ended up there because I just didn't know how to fit in all the other people above them. Because I do think they are all, even if it's only slightly, better than this guy. But he is at number 7. Then at number 6, we have Janemba. Now, this one was really tough. Like, I could see him being top 3 easily. But just all the other units are just so good. And it just depends. Like, again, like I said before, what you value for team building, what you think the unit strength should be, like early on, later on, all that kind of stuff. But this guy is awesome. We used him in the Goku Frieza event on a video I did the other day, where I didn't actually realize that I was only running him under 1 leader skill. The friend that I brought wasn't even giving him a leader skill, and he was still tanking like normals throughout the entire event for double-digit damage. He was still actually able to, with a crit, damage Goku and Frieza while only having 1 leader skill. active, which is insane. And then of course he has the rage mode, which protects the entire team, can get rid of the enemy super attack. Like, this guy could easily be higher. I think it's just the fact that the units that are above him on the list all have like a higher ceiling than him. And then of course we're talking about potential. So if you get like a bad RNG run, there's a couple of units above him on this list for today who you could absolutely argue that he'd be better than them, because he doesn't really rely on RNG. Like, getting some additionals early on to build up his passive faster is good. Obviously he does have things like chance to nullify a Ki Blast super, but it is great chance. Then he has a 50% chance to just straight up dodge a super regardless anyway. And then even if he doesn't, he has guard, he has high defense. Like, he's just a very, very strong defensive unit. He fits very well onto all of his teams. Obviously he did benefit massively from the fact that he's on uncontrollable power. So he's on the Broly team and some of these other setups. So Janemba is really, really good. But some of the other units above, I think, are maybe just that little bit better. But yeah, we currently have him at number 6. So then we go on to the top 5. And at 5, we have Gotenks. I could see arguments for him being higher, but there's a couple of major things that I think keep him from being a bit higher on the list for me, which obviously we're going to go over now. So the thing is, if he is quite RNG related when it comes to tanking supers, unless they're Ki Blast supers, and then he gets the extra damage reduction, and then he's just going to be fine, especially in the first 5 turns. But I mean, the thing is, you can jump into events that aren't even the hardest events in the game, and if he eats a super in slot 1 and doesn't get that coin flip 777% defense, then he takes damage. And one thing that I've noticed with the Goku and Frieza runs is that especially once his intro runs out, so he's only, I keep saying intro because he doesn't have an intro animation, but obviously part of his kit is getting the extra damage reduction for 5 turns. Once that runs out, the getting hit first obviously gives him a bit of a defensive buff, and it's getting hit with the super that can give him the massive 777% buff. But he only gets that when getting hit with a super, if the 50% chance goes off. So once that first 5 turns ends, in slot 1, he can take massive damage even from normal attacks, because if he gets hit by a normal, he's not getting that massive defense buff. He's only getting the initial smaller one. So I've seen him taking like 300-400k normals from like Frieza and 17. Now, obviously, the ideal scenario for him is that he gets supered first, gets the proc, and then obviously he has then massive defense. He tanks everything for double digits. And if you're still within the first 5 turns, he can still pretty much eat everything. Obviously, if he gets supered and doesn't get the proc, he will still die. So you don't have to use him as a slot 1 unit, but he works really well as one. The Majin Buu Saga team with him as the leader is absolutely insane. I think it is up there now in the highest tier with being one of the best teams of the game. But yeah, like, he definitely has weaknesses, and he definitely can get caught later on. And like, straight away I could say, like, if you wanted to switch Janemba and him, I could see the vision for sure. Because Janemba can get up to hitting some crazy numbers, which obviously Gotenks does some insane damage. It's very easy to get 24 Ki, which means he's always getting at least 2 supers and getting guaranteed crits. So he is really, really good. And of course, against a Ki Blast super boss, like, he's going to be insane, right? If the hardest content comes out for the 10th anniversary and it's a boss with a Ki Blast super attack, like, Gotenks might actually end up moving up the list because he's going to be so good defensively against that boss. But obviously for Goku and Frieza and 17 and Goku and Frieza don't have Ki Blast super attacks. So RNG can let you down. But this guy obviously is very, very good. And so he is at number 5. So then at number 4, we have the Goku and Vegeta that fuse into Super Gogeta. And this is where I know everyone will lose their mind. This is where everyone who didn't bother to watch the video and just jumped to the top 10 list at the end has already commented about why this is a trash list because Gogeta isn't at number 1. And so let me just be very clear straight off the bat. If this unit was just this unit, then they would have a very strong argument for being at number 1. Or maybe even at 2 at like the lowest, I guess. But they don't start off as this unit. They start off as this unit. And this unit isn't bad in any way, shape or form. Like, I think people maybe even underrate these guys. But like, these guys just don't do on turn 1 what some of the other units do on this list. And so this is why I prefaced this at the very beginning of the video when I said about people's personal preferences for like team building, how they value units. Because if you want a unit that is just straight away like the god of the game on turn 1, like, arguably Gotenks is better than these. Gotenks is better than these guys. Like, Gotenks is better than these guys in their base, but he isn't better than Gogeta. So it kind of depends on how you want to rate teams. Because these guys can't fuse until turn 4, and you have to be at 70% or more HP. So if they're on turn 1, they can't fuse on turn 3, obviously. Then they come back on turn 5. If you took a big super on turn 4, they're not fusing on turn 5. And then your next earliest chance to see Gogeta is turn 7. So in that kind of scenario, like multiple units on this list will perform better than the Goku and Vegeta, even some of these units that are below them on the list, right? So it's really tough placing these guys, because I see so many people be like, oh, these guys are number 1 because Gogeta is so good. And obviously Gogeta is very, very good. He does have some little nitpicks as well. Like, it's super annoying that he nullifies unarmed supers after he does his 18 key super. Because obviously he could nullify Goku and Frieza if he didn't have to do his 18 key super first, because they always super attack in slot 1. But obviously when this guy comes out, like, don't get me wrong, he is awesome. The Scouter, super high stats, damage reduction, does loads of damage, rainbow orb changing, has the whole Janemba thing where he can just dodge supers straight up as well. Like, this unit is absolutely incredible, but it doesn't start off as this unit. It starts off as this unit. And I mean, they're still at number 4, which I think is still very good. But like I said, you could have arguments for these guys being lower on the list just because their base form, I would say, is not as good as any of these, like, 3 units. All 3 of these units here, Broly, Janemba, and Gotenks, I would say are all better than these guys' base form. But then their transformed version could put them even higher on the list. So it's like, where do you put them? Do you put them near the top because of what they could transform into? Do you put them lower because you might not ever transform into them? Or do you do what I've done here, where you just kind of put them in between, because some runs they'll be arguably a top 2 unit in the game, and then some runs, some of the units we've already talked about will be better than them. So I think it's really, really tough when you get into this upper part of the list, and you absolutely could rotate and switch around these guys quite a bit. And like I say, I probably wouldn't have a huge argument against some of these placements. But for now, I've put them at number 4. Like I say, Super Gogeta himself arguably should be higher than 4. But these guys arguably could be lower if the unit was just these guys. So you guys let me know what you think. Do you not care? Do you think just because Gogeta is so good, he should be at the top? Do you have runs where you don't even get to fuse into Gogeta, so you think some of the other units are better? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. But we move on to the top 3. Number 3, we have Tech Broly. This guy's stocks have gone up so much, I think, just because, like, as the meta has developed a little bit and things are getting tougher, and like obviously Global getting to experience the Goku Frieza event, Broly's team being so good, like this guy just straight up tanks everything on turn 1, doesn't need to pick up a certain number of orbs, unlike some of the standbys like we talked about with the standby Goku, and that we will talk about with the Family Kamehameha Gohan. If you get a bad orb turn and you can't get orbs for them, like they can take a lot of damage, whereas Tech Broly on turn 1 just tanks everything. And then if you really want to, he can just transform straight away. But then he transforms on the next turn, and then becomes not only a unit that's very good defensively, because he has the 76% damage reduction for the first 2 turns when he transforms, but he also does really good damage as well. Then on the next turn, guaranteed, you can use his active skill, and he gets an even bigger boost. So on that turn, he's not only an incredible tank, but he's also doing really, really good damage. So this guy is just absolutely incredible. I don't think I necessarily underrated him. I was maybe just overrating some of the other characters around him. But like, this guy is, I would argue, probably the best aging of the Worldwide Celebration characters. And it really just comes down to how you want to argue his placement with this Gohan, who is at number 2. This guy, again, is very much like Gogeta. It's kind of a struggle to really think how to value this guy and how to place him, because in his base form he's not that great. Like, he's good, he can get some good attack stats, he's got good defense after supering, he's on a bunch of good teams, got a bunch of good links, like all of that good stuff. And then as soon as you got, like, literally the next turn, or if he's appeared on the first turn, like if he's on turn 2 and you've taken some damage, you can throw him into the standby, and that's when he obviously becomes incredibly good, because as long as you can get the orbs, he tanks really, really well. And then obviously you charge up the Family Kamehameha, do the full 5-turn like charge thing, and then it's one of the hardest hitting attacks in the game. So obviously if you can time it just right, like you can get to that last phase of the boss and then just fire off his active skill and do insane damage. But as I mentioned earlier, like I've had runs where, you know, like Goku and Frieza, even against Frieza and 17, who or even against like Tech 17, who doesn't necessarily hit that hard, locks this guy in slot 1, and the orb field is absolutely terrible, and you can only pick up like 1 or 2 orbs. Then he takes damage from like normal attacks, even potentially. Not like a huge amount of damage, but then if he takes like a big super in slot 1, on a turn where you've not picked up many orbs, he actually can take significant damage. So I could see arguments for him being lower, even lower than Broly, of course, who we've got at 3. But again, it just comes back to that issue with this list of, are we talking about their ceiling? Are we talking about overall average performance? Because obviously the ceiling for this guy is that you always pick up a decent amount of orbs, so he tanks really, really well. And then you fully charge the Family Kamehameha with a ton of orbs, and he does insane damage to like any of the bosses. So it's hard to place him, I think, but for now, I've settled with putting him at number 2, just because he does end up being a unit that I basically will always throw onto teams that he's on. And Broly is kind of getting to that spot as well. But like this guy's just on more teams, I think, that work like with him and better synergize well. So I could switch these 2 guys around, and I don't think I'd have much issue with that. So let me know what you think. And at number 1, I still have Beast. This is because of a couple of factors, mainly like the team protecting ability being so useful. I can't really remember any runs that I've really done where I die because of Beast Gohan. It's usually a case of him helping out to protect the team. He can do solid damage himself. And bear in mind, mine's only 55% as well. So obviously if I run his team, I use a Rainbow friend. So I know how he performs Rainbow, and at 55% very well. But like his team is still really, really good. He is still an incredible unit. He's obviously returned now for global on those banners that probably were a skip, but you could pick up copies with coins. I think it's one of those things, people will see Beast at number 1 and think that like, you know, oh, how have you still got Beast at number 1 now with all of these other crazy things that have come out? But I think consistently with with what he does really good damage. He's really good defensively. He protects the whole team. Like he kind of does a little bit of everything, and he can do all of it except for the active skill from turn 1. And bear in mind that his active skill, even though you do usually save it for the situation when it's most useful, you get it from the next turn after he receives a single attack. So it's almost certain, apart from really, really obscure situations, where on the very first appearance, you then get his active skill unlocked for the next turn. Because unless he's been locked in a slot where there's no attacks, he's only got to take 1 hit, and then his active skill is available to be used. So I still think this guy is ridiculously good. Obviously, having double Gohan, not only does he have some insane units on his team, but double Gohan means you have the team protector ability twice, like 2 turns in a row, essentially. So yeah, I think this guy is super, super good. And with his leader skill and the categories that he's on, he's going to end up being on some of these big 10th anniversary unit teams, and will be like one of the top units to run on their team. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Like I said before, I think some of the other units, if we're talking about their overall maximum potential, you could definitely argue are better than Beast Gohan. But then, of course, if we're talking worst case scenario, and you get bad RNG with orbs or with transformation conditions, then some of those units could end up being even lower on the list than they were here today. So I think Gohan, one of the big things I value for him is the consistency. But obviously, let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. So if we take a look at the list properly here for the more zoomed out view, we've got Blue Evolution Vegeta at 10, UI Goku at 9, the Physical Trio at 8, Int Broly at 7, Janemba at 6, Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks at 5, the Goku and Vegeta that fuse into Gogeta at 4, Tech Broly at 3, Family Kamehameha Gohan at 2, and Beast Gohan at 1. But as I said during the video, you could very easily swap a lot of these guys around, even like the top, I guess, 8, because maybe UI Goku and Blue Evolution Vegeta don't get past any of the guys above them, but the whole top 8 of the list, I feel like you could shuffle around in certain ways, and there would still be arguments for that being perfectly fine. So it's really, really close. Like, this top 10 is absolutely crazy. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Like I said, if you disagree with any of the placements, do let me know why, and I'm more than happy to respond with more info. But if you skip to this end part just to look at the list, do go back and listen to the explanations, listen to the intro. But yeah, let me know your guys' thoughts on the list down below in the comment section. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.